Ms. Glassy, for these questions, just holler and I'll
Okay.
shut up. But I do have a few that have been generated.
Okay, well, Jennifer's going to speak to the specific charts, or can answer those questions.
Which charts?
Just the rest of the staff report.
You mean the exhibits?
Yeah,
Not just because I don't find charts here.
okay, sorry.
In terms of the summary page, though, you mentioned and I have to apologize, I'm not quite sure if I caught your comment. Sheriff overtime, we did not budget that at 300,000, but looking at the overtime sheets between the patrol and the jail, looks like he's on target. So I guess we'll get to those when Jennifer gets to the exhibits.
Yeah.
The Fort Bragg Animal Shelter, the 100,000, could you clarify that item?
Fort Bragg Animal Shelter, as I understand it, was budgeted at $156,000. That assumes restructuring of the program in some fashion, whether it continues to be operated by the county or whether there is some mix of contracted services. And so 100,000 is about the additional funds that, as I understand it, would be needed to continue operations at a level that would, either at the present level or addressing renovations and other things that the site needs.
Where are we on that process?
Well, as mentioned by Tom, they're still kind of in discussions about what the options are, and would be bringing that back to the board sometime in the near future, possibly next week.
Well, we've had that discussion sometime in the far past.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, frankly, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a challenge to figure this out. It's a little shelter, it's a cinder block building, a couple employees and a couple animals. It seems like we're taking a long time to get that analysis done. And now we're looking at another 100 grand to keep it going because we're not done with the analysis.
No, we're not talking about 100 grand to
Well, it's a shortfall that somehow we're gonna have to pay the bill if we don't make a change.
No, this is trying to be upfront. What it's saying is that the budget right now assumes restructuring of the program. That restructuring is going to happen. That restructuring may result in contracting, it may result in cutback of services. There are a number of things. If you didn't want those things to happen, you would need another 100,000. But what's here is assuming that you're not going to add that in, that it's going to continue to be restructured as previously directed.
No, I understand that, but,
Okay.
but I guess my assumption, maybe this is where I'm incorrect, my assumption is that restructuring was going to occur earlier in the fiscal year, not at the end of it. And at the rate
think-
we're going, it's likely to be
Yeah.
the end of it. So how do we come up with that gap that we didn't fund?
Well, at this point, there is no gap. The restructuring.
Well, I don't know, because we're only in December, but we still have
Okay.
7 months of the
I will
fiscal
let
year.
Colin speak to this.
Good morning, Chairman Wattenberger, Supervisor Delbar, members of the board. I'm Carmel Angelo, Director for the Health and Human Services Agency. The difference of the 100,000 that you're questioning is that last year the budget for the animal shelter was approximately $256,000 for Fort Bragg. So in order to bring the animal shelter up to the same level of service and some that we had last year, it would be $256,000. Certainly, the agency is not requesting an additional 100,000 go into the shelter at this time. When the reduction was made for animal control in total for Ukiah and Fort Bragg, the reason for that was knowing that our revenues would be less this year. And in fact, right now, our revenues are even less than they were in September when we were here in front of you. As you know, we have gone out for RFP for the Fort Bragg Animal Shelter. Our hope was that we would find a good partner to come in, operate the shelter on a daily basis for the amount of money that we have. We are still in negotiations. I realize that negotiations are taking a long time, much longer than we had anticipated. There are very good reasons for that. We hope that, as Mr. Mitchell has said, by December 16th, we could come back here with some outcome. But we are still in negotiations. I'm not at liberty to talk about those negotiations. However, I do understand the marching orders here, and our goal is to stay within budget for the animal shelter, whether it's Fort Bragg, Ukiah, or any program in the Health and Human Services Agency. Any other questions?
No, that helps, thank you. And then, Ms. Glassy, on page 6, the board executive direction, specific cuts and reductions, we're coming up with a whopping $65,000 in savings. We're saving more from eliminating bottled water than we are from a hiring freeze. And I'm having trouble with that concept. If we invoke a hiring freeze, we save a $15,000, granted it's not an entire fiscal year, but that's not even half a position. So if we truly implement a hiring freeze, I mean, really strongly, seriously, no jokingly, put in a hiring freeze, wouldn't we save a little bit more than $15,000?
It would depend on which positions you froze, and
Well, then we're
that's,
not freezing any. If we, we have 1,500 people in this county system.
actually, right now, we don't have 1,500. I think the issue is that in the budget itself, we assumed a much higher salary savings than we have in previous years. Departments have already slowed down their hiring, so the effect of a hiring freeze on top of that is somewhat muted because you've already taken cuts up front in the budget. You're already taking cuts at the departmental level where they're just not asking to fill all those positions, or they're delaying filling positions or whatever. So that estimate is based on, it's a half a year, a lot of actions are already taking place, and the implication here is that you're looking at actually saying to someone a position that they otherwise would feel needs to be filled, that they can't fill it. You can't, it's also assuming that we're going to be looking at mandatory time off and some of those other things, because that's the only way you can address the kind of shortfall that seems to be developing based on the economy. Once you put that in place, then that gets in the way of your savings from voluntary time off or hiring freeze or anything else like that. So it is assuming that you have to balance all that out. And if you put a really high number and then you implemented the other stuff, that high number would not be realized.
So if we don't have 1,500, what's today's employee count?
Off the top of my head, I have no idea.
1,450, maybe?
I can find that out for later.
Well, it's a substantial number.
Yeah.
And I've sat through many hiring freezes during my tenure, and I've jokingly recalled them the hiring heat waves because they're far from freezes. And we've had hiring freezes where we've turned around in one motion, adopted 50 new positions in one department. It's not really a freeze. And I guess I'm going to need some more convincing, and I don't need it right now,
Yeah.
but I don't buy the explanation why that's only $15,000.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me, and it
Okay,
still
well, I'd
doesn't.
also say that that's general fund costs. But you're right, it depends on what positions you freeze, to be perfectly honest with you. Some positions are worth more